But anyway, I don't normally engage with stuff like this because it almost never goes anywhere. But this time, I guess I am really curious, like genuinely curious, where it goes.
So, Vaush responded to my video the other day.
He's gonna live off this response for 5 years. Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
Don't mind if I do.
But genuinely, I do appreciate Vaush taking the time to respond and being so polite while doing so. I gave him every incentive not to be polite, and I do respect that he was, and that he took the time out of, I'm sure, his busy schedule.
I got an email a little while ago while talking about Demigloom, talking to Ben Shapiro. I said that I had never seen a conservative answer my questions with regards to like the definition of woman in comparison to the definition of mother with regards to the fact that adoptive mothers are still called mothers.
I have to admit, this is completely surreal for me. Being from a small country like Ireland, it's rare for me to interact with, celebrities.
They're still a mother.
I would disagree. I think technically they're not actually the mother. We use it in a social setting. And
that's the point though. Like there is no like technically, right? If a person uses the word that way, like if you want to go to technicality, you can go to a Google definition, right? But Google, like you can look up definitions and like they will include adoptive mothers. Oh, there's a technical definition, but there's also a widely accepted social definition that has gained respect in basically all levels of society. That is just like a caveat to the broader definition, you know? In which case, like if you did that for trans people, that would be a pro-trans argument, you know?
Just to be clear, when I say technical, I mean a more scientific definition, a stricter definition. And to address his second point, I do make this argument later in the video, but I'm aware, as in the case of mother, we could adopt as a society a more social definition. But I don't think that social definition is a good reflection of reality.
It's not like I'm making the argument that like trans women and cis women mean the same thing, only saying that they're both under the category of woman.
I understand that, but that's what's implied by saying trans women are women and where the whole contention lies. I guess the difference between me and Ben Shapiro, presumably, is that I'm aware that we can adopt that definition, like we did with mother, but I don't think we should. And to be polite, if someone is fulfilling the role of the mother.
It's not just a matter of politeness. That's like megacope. The idea that people only refer to adoptive mothers as like politeness is like just authentically incorrect. And if you believe that, then you're, I don't know, like just socially unaware.
I'll definitely concede that politeness was bad wording on my part.
Like, is that something you've done? Like, you know somebody who adopted a kid when they were like 6 months old, and the parent is like, yeah, I'm their parent, I'm their mom. And then you're like, I know you're not their real mom.
Yeah, that's really how I get my kicks. But I wouldn't say that to a trans person either. I wouldn't just walk up to some trans woman and say, you're not a real woman, because I'm not an asshole. Trans women are technically not women.
Also, what is so if by technically you mean according to a specific definition, but not another one that I like less, like what does that even mean technically?
A more scientific, objective definition. I guess this is what's annoying about video responses, because if this were a live conversation, I could just answer that straight away and clear up so much confusion. It becomes a question of, should we as a society adopt this definition, which is not based on biology?
See, this is what they never answer. Like, if you look up the dictionary definition of mother from Oxford Languages, a woman in relation to her child or children. Construct?
We can make it a more social definition.
All definitions are social. That's not like a subjective argument on my part. That is literally how definitions work. We don't discover them. They're not elements in the periodic table. They're always social.
This is weird for two reasons. You've previously argued that the periodic table is arbitrary, and I know what your response would be. The periodic table itself is arbitrary, not the elements within it. And he does know what I mean, because he used the phrase earlier.
But there's also a widely accepted social definition.
But in case he genuinely doesn't know what I mean, when I say a social definition, I mean one that's more subjective. I would say a definition is objective if it describes a concept that's observable, measurable. The definition itself is a social construct, but the thing it's describing is not. A social definition or a subjective one, if you prefer, is one that's influenced by opinion and feelings.
Oh, true. That is often used with step parents as well, more so than adoptive parents. Of course, a step parent can be considered like a mother or a father, depending on the circumstances.
That's how you know your definition is social or subjective. In my opinion, they might be, maybe, depending on the circumstances, the mother. But you can't do that with what I'm saying is an objective definition, like biological mother or biological woman. It's a scientific definition, so it's measurable. You either are or aren't the mother. There's no opinions involved.
My argument, and the argument of people who study linguistics, would be that the point of constructing definitions the way we do is to serve utility.
I completely agree, and I mentioned that later in the video, but I think the objective, more factual definition of woman is more useful.
Like, if you want to, you could argue, since all definitions are socially constructed, yeah, sure, a tree is a cloud or whatever, you know? Like, if you want to, but that doesn't give us much utility.
Exactly my point. Vaush is just more articulate than me. Maybe I could hire him as my script writer.
There really isn't any loss in utility by referring to adoptive mothers as mother. If you want to, you can just say birth mother.
But to me,
it's all social definition. There's no other type of definition. We don't discover any definitions. Like, we don't unearth them.
Yes, but if we did unearth a new element that we'd never found it before, it would get a definition. Because the things we're trying to describe are objective in this case. But if we create a new definition, Mother 2.0, and the definition is mothers who are cool, that would be a subjective definition. A trans woman is so different to a biological woman.
I don't care. To you, I don't care.
Okay, that's great. Everyone's free to use their own definitions.
Thankfully, we have the terms trans women and cis women. So you can. If you're so insistent on, like, woman, like the term woman, like if that's the term you care about, gatekeeping that out of the hands of trans women, then you would have to make, like, a really good comprehensive argument as to why we, A, get more social utility in that, in spite of the fact that millions of people really, really care about them meaning the same things. And there's no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, it's all social. It's just a matter of utility.
I will indeed make that argument, but it probably warrants another video. But to sum up, I think sex is so fundamental to everything about our behavior, even in ways that you don't generally perceive. It's so good at predicting things, and it's so fundamental to everything we do that I think it should be the most commonly used definition. Again, this is pedantry.
Please don't use Family Guy clips to support arguments that you make against me.
He didn't say anything about Simpsons memes.
It's also not pedantry to say that adoptive mothers are mothers. That's not the definition of pedantry.
I mean that it's pedantry with regards to the overall argument.
I don't understand what argument he's making when he acknowledges that the social I don't know what that means, like the social definition versus the technical definition, but the technical definition includes the social definition. I don't get it.
To be fair, my videos are fairly rushed, and I don't spend as much time as I should on them. So I don't think I made my points as clearly as I would have liked. It's mostly as a result of me getting my income from my, proper job. In truth, if I knew he'd actually respond, I probably would have spent more time perfecting it.
To look at the world and to go, that doesn't have to be that way. It was constructed this way. There's nothing innate about this. We can rearrange it if we need to. Like, that's a sociology thing, But conservatives hate sociology because it never agrees with them.
I'm aware we can reconstruct the definition. I just don't think we should.
There are objective definitions as opposed to social definitions. You can say some definitions are used in different contexts.
Take this made-up definition. Woman, anyone who's really cool. That's completely subjective, and therefore a subjective definition. That's what I mean. The second one is an objective definition. Because what it's describing is objective. You either are or you aren't. It's a social construct in the sense that we assigned that word to that definition, but the concept that it's describing is objective. And I think that's where Vaush is being led astray, and why he made that weird H2O is aqua argument when we're speaking casually. But most people in society think you're sex, defines whether you are a man or a woman. If we are to be forced to use a
Are we then making the argument that majority rules is how we determine what the technically correct definition is?
definition, should it not be democratic? I'm happy for every individual.
No.
If he had played the clip a tiny bit further, he would have realized that's not my argument. I'm saying if we should force everyone to use a definition, it should be democratic. But I think everyone should be free to use whatever definition they want, which is what I'm going to say in the next second.
There's a lot of variety there. But yeah, like if a person, people can have whatever definitions. Like I'll say this, and I think that most progressives, if they thought for a second, would agree with me. The definition of a woman that includes a trans woman and one that doesn't are both equally correct and incorrect, because correctness isn't the metric by which you look at definitions, but they're not equally harmful.
You can say that everyone's free to use their own definitions, but if you can lose your job, get cancelled, taken off social media for not using your definition, then you're not really free to use whatever definition you want. It's the same argument you make against capitalism. You don't have to work, but you basically have to. I can use whatever definition I want, but you'll be fired, ostracized, taken off social media if you don't use the non-objective definition. Or maybe all your freedom can be stripped away. You could be jailed for not using the correct definition. I think it should be illegal to misgender someone. So
let's go. I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak for like a random Newsweek poll, which is what this is pulling from. I don't think misgendering people should be a crime.
I'm really happy he acknowledged the argument, and I'm satisfied with his response. I was genuinely curious to see what he'd have to say about that.
I think persistent misgendering a person of a person when you're in a position of authority over them can be harassment for sure. Like, it's not a crime to call a person a dumbass, but if you're their boss and you call it to them over and over and over and over again, like that can be a case for a civil suit.
But again, that's not what's happening. This person isn't even attacking a specific person, but making a general statement, and she still could face prison time. And just threatening someone with jail time over this definition will make other people afraid to use that definition. You're forcing the majority of people to adopt a definition that they don't want to use.
Now, this is, first of all, don't you people. This is a Newsweek poll. Second of all, like, we can't speak to the perceived results of this hypothetical. Like, this isn't in relation to any law. People say lots of dumbass shit when polled, Third of all, again, like, without any more specific info, like, under what, like, this is like the Jordan Peterson tier fear-mongering, right? Where he was like, Bill C-16 is going to mean people are being arrested for mischief, and it just never happened.
But hate speech laws are moving in that direction, where you can be jailed for using the incorrect definition. And Bill C-16 did result in people having to pay fines, which is the next best thing to an arrest.
Okay, I assume you're being facetious here.
I was, and I apologize because you weren't facetious to me. Other people. But I do agree with him. Definitions aren't objective. It's how useful they are.
Well, then how? What is with the technical? What? Then why the business with this is the technical versus the social, thereby implying there's any definition that isn't socially constructed?
Again, this is probably my fault. But when I say an objective definition, I'm talking about the thing it's describing is objective. It either is or it isn't. The definition isn't based on feelings or opinions. Someone is either the biological mother of a child or they aren't. It's objective. The more social definition that includes adoptive mothers is subjective. If the adoptive mother stole the baby, you would call the biological mother the real mother. But if the biological mother was neglectful, you would call her adoptive mother the mother. It's subjective. How good they are at reflecting reality. I think...
No. Not reflecting reality. That's not... It's how useful they are, yes, but reflecting reality isn't... If we boiled our language down to reflecting reality, then we would... I don't know, what would we have? Like newspeak? Like how many words would we get? The point is to communicate our thoughts and our feelings. Like, which are, of course, a part of reality.
It's a good point from Vaush, and a nice bit of nuance. But in general, words are useful when they reflect reality. I mean that words are useful when they describe what I'm observing, what I'm seeing. Again, if tree and cloud were the same words, they wouldn't be a good reflection of what I'm observing in reality. But he's right. Usefulness is the metric at the end of the day. In general, it's useful if it reflects reality, but it doesn't have to. But again, I think trans women are so different to women that it doesn't reflect reality to call them the same thing. AKA, I don't think it's useful.
That you can fulfill the role of one by raising somebody. Like that doesn't make any sense. If you're fulfilling the role of a definition by doing something, then that's the definition. That your beliefs are still framed through the stupid, primitive disgust that you feel at something you don't understand or don't particularly like.
True. That was pretty spicy and edgy of me. And my goal wasn't to trigger Vaush, so I apologize. I didn't make the video with you in mind. My point is that these things are so different that they warrant a separate definition, in my opinion. Obviously, I was using an extreme example. Even with surgery and hormone therapy, I instinctively still know that these things are different. I don't have to know the physical properties of a tree or a cloud to observe that they're different.
This guy is a biblical prescriptivist and a fan of John Doyle. I should have checked the videos.
I consider myself an atheist, so I'm genuinely confused by this.
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, fuck, I didn't even check. This is the guy who keeps making videos on me.
Yes, he knows who I am.
He was nice in the email. Maybe it was just like, you know, maybe if I'm nice, he'll respond.
That wasn't my intention. I actually didn't expect you to respond. And he didn't continue to the end of the video. But like I said, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I'll use whatever definition an individual wants me to use, but I don't want to be forced to use any definition. There's a difference between, can you refer to me as a woman, versus, you have to call me a woman. Anyway, I respect Vaush for being so polite and cordial when I probably didn't deserve it, and I would have been more careful with my video if I knew this was my opportunity to engage with him.